founder of Samira Sanusi Sickle Cell Foundation, co-founder of Waters Up for Sustainable Living Initiative, and author of Essays for Survival. I'm from Funtua in Katsina State, but I grew up in Abuja. That's my early childhood, and the rest of my growing up, I did it in Vienna, Austria. I was born with sickle cell anemia, and it was something that was a fundamental part of me because it was a disease that I didn't really live with day in, day out, but something that I faced the challenges of living with it every single day. There was a limit to how much I could play, there was a limit to what I could eat or drink, where I could go, and every activity for me, every playtime was a trigger for the crisis. So for me, I needed to find the purpose for the pain. I needed to find the reason. I needed to understand why I had to go through not just sickle cell anemia, but sickle cell complications that left me on a wheelchair for 6 years, that left me with 28 surgeries, that left me with undergoing chemotherapy and bone marrow transplant. And in the middle of it and towards the end, I realized that I was lucky and blessed to have survived something that would have killed many and something that has taken a lot of lives. And I felt like the next best thing for me to do was to become an advocate and help other people who aren't as fortunate as I was to get the cure or access health care or survive it. The patient isn't the only person who is changed or who is affected. The family as well. I always tell people sickle cell anemia is a disease that the whole family suffers from, even if the rest of your family are AA or AS. For my dad especially, we're very close, and I think it was very difficult for him to know that in some way he was part of the reason why I was born with this disease, since it's a genetic disorder. And then, like I said, we are close, so many nights he worried, there's so many nights when he wouldn't go to sleep at all. So many times he worried if I was going to survive or make it, especially with doctors telling him, take her home, she's not going to make it, you're wasting your money. And he went to hell and back to make sure that there were funds available for whatever treatment I needed. And he moved mountains for me, and he was always there for me to talk to if it was at 2 a.m. or so many times I could tell him that I really don't understand what is going on or why I have to go through this. I'll ask him, is this something that I did wrong and God is punishing me? And he'll always tell me that no, there's a purpose for your pain, and someday you're going to leave that purpose. So it was something that as a family we all went through together in different ways, but one way or the other we've all been scarred, we've all been impacted, we've all been affected, and it has brought us much closer. I met this guy, Nura. He was a project coordinator for Sickle Cell Aid Foundation, where I was invited to talk about my experiences being a sickle cell survivor. So at the end of my speech, he introduced himself and said, Sam, you're one of the lucky ones. Surviving doesn't just stop at overcoming whatever it is you went through. You have to do more with it, and it goes beyond just writing a book about your experiences. You have to do more in educating people, enlightening people, counseling people, and just reminding people that you have seen the worst of sickle cell anemia, and you know the pain that others are going through, you know the journey they're walking, because sometimes what a person really needs is to know that they're not alone, or that whatever it is they're going through, someone has been there before and survived. So Noura was the one that taught me everything I know today about advocacy. I learned from him. I followed him everywhere he was going to in creating awareness, whether it was community outreaches or free genotype testing or counseling. And we did so much together, and eventually in 2014 I established my own foundation to continue what he has taught me, and to continue to spread the message of awareness, inspiration, support, and try as much as possible to not just enlighten people, but make sure that they're making informed decisions, and then provide support and aid to low-income families who are living with the disease. Because I had 28 surgeries, and I cannot even give you the cost estimate of all of those, but there are people who cannot afford folic acid or paludrin or paracetamol for a whole month or a whole week. So that is the most important part of the work I do. I lost my mom when I was 6, but I've never known loss till I lost Noura. You know, all the work I do today, the hours, the recognition, the encouragement, he taught me everything, and he was there the whole time. Even when I didn't call, he showed up. There's no getting over losing someone like Noura. You know, he was larger than life, and every day I'm driving to work, I wonder, is there even a point to it? Maybe I should just, you know, forget it and quit. But I promised to make him proud, and he didn't spend his time teaching me and grooming me for me to just, you know, give up. And it wasn't even just about losing someone who taught me so much about my purpose in life. It was just losing a friend, losing a fundamental part of me. And like I said, there's no getting over a loss like that, because every day I wake up and I wonder, when is it going to get better? When am I going to get over him not being around, not being here? And I don't know when it will happen, if it will ever happen. The only thing I can do is to try and make him proud, and to remember that he is no longer in pain. For me, that's what I have ever always wanted, for his pain to end, because I struggle with being a survivor, being cured, knowing that so many people that I care about cannot have access to that cure, or have had access to that cure, and it wasn't successful. And I always looked at Noura and I wanted him to be free like me, and he is free, just not in the way that I thought he would be. So every time I get emotional about losing him, I just try to console myself that wherever he is, he's no longer in pain, and that's all that matters. That's all that I have ever wanted for him. You know, this thing about stigma is something that I'm recently dealing with and trying to understand, because I have lived with sickle cell anemia in so many other countries, and I have never experienced stigma in those countries, except for Nigeria. And funny enough, we have the highest number of sickle cell patients in the world. You go to other places and they are more welcoming, more understanding, more passionate and compassionate about what you are dealing with. And then you come home and the reception you get is it's discouraging. It's something that at some point it hurts more than living with the disease. Even though I am now cured, I've been for 13 years, I'm AA now, I still, deal with the stigma where people say, so you had a bone marrow transplant. What does that mean? I get that you're cured, but does that mean that you can get married? Does that mean that you can now have babies? Sickle cell anemia patients also have babies. A lot of them are super moms, not just moms, super moms. So I think a lot of it is just curiosity, because people don't know much, but sometimes their delivery, the way they ask the questions, the way they try to know more about what it is you're facing, it's not very polite and nice, so you feel attacked, you feel judged, and you feel alone. The major obstacle, I'll say, is the advocacy part again, because sickle cell advocacy is easy when you think about it, but when you come down to implementing it, you realize that you're really, at the end of the day, telling people who they can or cannot get married to. And that is one place so many people do not want to go through. And it's something that you battle with yourself and wonder, do I even have the right to do this, to say this? But then I look at myself and all I've been through, and I'm like, you know what, I don't even care about you or the love you share and everything like that. I'm more concerned about the child that you're going to hopefully have after 1 or 2 years of marriage or whatever. So it's hard because there's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, you can counsel people and show them the realities of the disease, show them the reality of what I have been through, because I have seen the worst of sickle cell. The only ugly side of it that I haven't seen is death, which I have come close to. So there are people who are aware of the importance of genotype and genetic compatibility, but just don't care. I can't even say there's a reason. You know how they ask you, are you in love? And you say yes, and then they ask you, why do you love so person? And you're like, wow, is there even a reason? The North is who I am. A Northern woman is who I am. And in all my journey of self-discovery, self-value, self-empowerment, self-love, I have come to understand that I have lived in Abuja, and I have lived also in Austria, and have been, part of me is Austrian, but a bigger part of me is a Northern woman as well. And I am proud of that. I like that woman, and I'm proud of her. We live in an age where there's a lot that you can teach yourself. You don't have to rely on someone to tell you that you need to know this or you need to do this. You can, inspire and find what it is that you need to do to change the world. So youth development has started. It should have started yesterday, and there's no longer what leaders of tomorrow should do. Leaders of tomorrow should work now and have started working now in shaping the community, in inspiring other people, in teaching the young generation that there's more to life than just having fun and everything like that, that we all together have a message. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a message of hope or inspiration. We all have it within ourselves. And there's so much power in that, because you'll be surprised at what that can do for a person. You're surprised what that can do for a community, for a group of people.